What's going on, my peoples? Welcome to another edition of Sports Talk with Clem Boogie. Today we're going to be touching the NFL. What's going on with the NFL? It's been a long off season, but they've been in the headlines lately for all the wrong reasons. Let's talk about it. I'm going to throw out a few names, a few instances, if what have you. Deshaun Watson, Stephen Ross, Alvin Kamara, just to name a few. And how can I forget Daniel Snyder? These are what you would call all entities of the Shield. Obviously, Deshaun's case has been in the public eye for quite some time. Ever since last season, notice the young man has not played a down of football in a year, exactly 1 year. Since then, a lot has took a turn, some for the positive, a lot for the negative. In Deshaun's case, he's still being accused and held for the misconduct, sexual misconduct that took place, allegedly. But with that being said, a decision was made earlier this week by Sue Robinson, who's the magistrate of the NFL. She brought down the decision giving 6-game suspension to Deshaun Watson. You would think that would be enough, being that it is the NFL, after all, that wrote the rules. It's their bylaws. Not so fast. They're not happy with Judge Robinson's decision, so guess what? They're going to appeal it. And what do I mean by that? They're obviously looking for a much harsher sentence, harsher outcome than what was levied by one Sue Robinson. Now, let's unpack it. The NFL has a set of bylaws, set of rules. We all have rules, but now more specifically the NFL. If you're doing something and you step outside the lines in a negative light, you're going to pay for it in a fine or suspension. Though what Deshaun Watson was alleged of was very egregious, and I'm hoping untrue or whatever the case may be. I wasn't there. You're not there. It's all speculation. They went through. NFL investigators went through the proper channels in interviewing, I think, 4 or 5 of the victims, and they found no findings. They left it at that. Previously, when I talked about this topic, it did reach a criminal court, and it obviously got knocked down. They didn't find sufficient evidence into making it into a criminal trial whatsoever. But again, being levied a 6-game suspension is what the NFL had in their bylaws, which is detriment and misconduct of the Shield. Somehow or another, the NFL not happy with the decision. So with that being said, from what I understand and from other news wires, they're talking about a year-long suspension. On top of that, they want a hefty fine for Deshaun to pay. Now, let's sit back. If you're making the rules, wouldn't you cover all bases and understand the severity of whatever instance may occur? I get it. You can only control but so much. But it almost feels like the NFL is changing the rules as they go. Why might that be? I don't know. But it doesn't sound right, definitely doesn't smell right. But whatever. My other instance, Stephen Ross, Miami owner, Miami Dolphins owner. He's a billionaire. He just got handed down a hefty fine, whatever. He also received, I would say, a slap on the wrist type suspension, being he's an owner, not a player. And yeah, just a stern warning, so to speak, when his decision came down. His situation is a little bit different. His incorporates tampering, tanking, and trying to swindle the team into, potentially a higher draft pick, higher seeding of receiving draft picks, try tampering and getting certain marquee players and coaches. If you're on top of that story, you know what I'm talking about. Stephen Ross tried to get Tom Brady. Many people might say, how could that be? Well, let's slip back. Tom Brady went to the University of Michigan. Guess where Stephen Ross graduated from? Guess where Stephen Ross has his name basically on the business school from? Guess where Stephen Ross is the biggest booster of the program? Right. If you said Michigan, you're smart. Case in point, Stephen Ross has money. He has some weight, but it doesn't encompass integrity, which is, obviously a big thing when it comes to competitive sports, competitive business, and competitive anything. You have to have a level of integrity, because if you don't, people won't trust you. But again, he's a billionaire. So the NFL gave him, I'm not sure the number of games. Does he care? No. He's probably going to chill out on his yacht or his mansion, his estate somewhere. He won't care. The only thing that affects a billionaire is his bottom line. Don't mess with his money. You've never heard someone say that they cared about the wrongdoings that they have committed. They don't. They're just going to keep doing it. If it provides an advantage, guess what? He's going to continue to do it. He's not the first one. He certainly won't be the last one. If you can get away with it, you're going to be able to do it. Now, next one, Alvin Kamara. He happens to play for my favorite football team, the New Orleans Saints. He's a great player. He's an exciting player. He's a marquee player for the Saints. It's hurtful because his decision hasn't come down yet for an altercation that he was involved in Las Vegas during the summertime, where someone was critically injured to the tune of a fractured orbital bone. And yeah, obviously him being the person he is and being the figure that he is, guess who got identified? Right, Alvin Kamara. People, I don't understand. When you have money or when you reach a certain social status, you don't need to be everywhere. You really don't. You don't need to be seen. Circles need to be cut down. But hey, what do I know? I do want to express that it's unfortunate that someone did get hurt. I don't promote that at all. It's hard enough being, a person that walks outside every day. We live in a world right now where nothing is for sure. When you walk out of your door in the mornings, afternoons, or the evening, nothing's ever guaranteed. So I don't promote any kind of violence or any of that. So let's get that straight. But with Alvin, he's awaiting his fate. And that's all I can say about that. Now back to another owner, Daniel Snyder. He's the owner of the Washington Commanders. Daniel Snyder is also a billionaire. Doesn't really have a care in the world. Don't really know too much about him and his business endeavors. All I know is he is the owner of the Washington Commanders. The reason why I'm emphasizing Commanders is because some years ago, the Washington Commanders weren't called the Washington Commanders. They were called the Washington Redskins. Now, anybody that has half a brain understands calling someone a redskin, especially of Native American descent, is the equivalent of calling someone like me a nigger. Now, you got to understand, Ignorance is bliss. But, just as long as it doesn't affect that bottom line, people do not care. That's the growing theme here. People won't care until it's something that's beneficial stripped away from them, or they're painted in a negative light and they're forced to defend themselves. And to be honest, there's no amount of money in the world that could probably defend you or, from being defamed. It takes seconds for someone to be defamed. I have yet to see someone redeem their credibility once defamed. It just doesn't happen. The culture that we're in, and communities, and the world for that matter that we're in, no. I love how everyone preaches second chances, but it comes at a price. That's what a lot of people don't talk about. But in Daniel Snyder's case, it's more so his work environment, or shall I say, the work environment that he provides and oversees. There have been tons of sexual harassment cases, terrible work environment. This guy oversees it. Mind you, he's a billionaire. If he wanted to do something, he could snap his fingers and make it happen. But he chooses not to. Why does he choose not to? Because he doesn't care. If it does not affect someone's bottom line, they do not care. Folks, I'm here to tell you, when there are people with money, have you ever heard someone with money take advice from me, you, on what to do with their money, or how to behave, or how to conduct themselves, or how to move? No, that's not realistic. Now, those points I brought up, those instances I brought up, is to highlight a word that gets thrown around way too often. Accountability. Is it a real thing? I don't know. It's becoming harder and harder each day to visibly see what accountability really is. People say it. Do they believe it? No. People are apprehensive to talk about accountability because we're in this world where we like to point fingers. No one wants to take ownership. If you do something, there's a consequence. But at the same token, if you do something on the other side, there's praise. People look more to the praise part, not willing to accept the consequence. It comes with the territory. You can't have one without the other. Some people actually are built for it. A lot of people aren't. There are CEOs, whether it be in business, in the sports world, athletes, you name it. They don't. You ever witnessed or ever felt the level of criticism when someone's trying to criticize you? Do you feel that pressure? Do you feel how enraged and angered you get? Correct. You don't like it. When someone is telling you something you're at fault at or something you're lacking, we're all quick to get defensive, including myself. We're all built that way. There's no one ever in the history of life that says, yes, they've been accountable for anything. Unless you're going to jail, then you're doing it for obviously to reduce prison sentence or whatever. But I don't know what that life is. I hope not to experience that life. I don't really care for that life. But in terms of the NFL and where it stands as far as accountability, you have 32 owners. You have Roger Goodell, one commissioner. Guess what? Roger Goodell works for those 32 owners. So if the 32 owners come to a decision and they make it known that that's their said decision, Roger Goodell has to follow suit. He has no say so. I mean, it's great to be the commissioner. You get to stand there, you get to sit at all kinds of executive boxes, VIP this, VIP that. Doesn't matter. You still have 32 bosses. And I'm sure it looks bad with a lot of the decision making because it's clearly a double standard when it comes to owners and players. Players will be held always to a high accountability, whether they like it or not, whether there's evidence or whether the evidence is not sufficient enough. But, when it comes to owners and it comes to billionaires, they don't play fair. and it doesn't seem to be a level playing field. Listen, owners want talent. Tom Brady can be friends with whoever he is. He's not an owner, he's a player. These things coincide because Tom Brady is making whoever the owner of the Tampa Bay Bucks money. The jersey sales, filling the stadiums with people's butts in the seats. That's all they care about. People have to understand that there's a method to it. Very transactional. That all that emotional ties and things of that nature does not exist, especially in sports. No. You can be emotional when you win or when you lose within the game. But on the business side of things, no, you can't. No. It's what's being said. You either take it or you get out. Understanding that will be, you're halfway through the battle. Actually, it's more than halfway, because if you played Pee Wee League, you played Little League, if you played, travel hoops or anything like that, it's fun. It's great. It's fun. But once you graduate college and you ultimately make that decision, or if you're fortunate enough to make that decision, get an agent and things of that nature and go to the professional ranks, there's nothing fun about it. Like, I hear people talk about how fun these things are. There's nothing fun about it. I'll be honest with you. Playing football, it hurts. It's a collision sport. There's nothing fascinating about it. It's a bunch of grown men, big men at that are charging at you, trying to knock your head off. Now, it's fine if you're built for it, but even the ones that are really built for it, they get hurt. Trust me, it hurts. But understanding that there's a prize at the end of the tunnel, that's the common goal. You worked all your life to get there. But that's another case. I'm not here to lift anybody's spirits or tell anyone to, get up, lace up, and go play football. I'm not doing that. What I am telling you is accountability is not a realistic thing. At least to me, it's not. People talk a good game about accountability, but no one's ever going to follow suit about it. It's a great word, but accountability is very transactional. If you are listening, yes. But if you have no care and not listening to it, then what's the point? You're just going to go on, you're going to continue down on the road and doing whatever it is that you were doing. But in those situations, like I said, players and owners, for the public, you and I, when we look at things, we have to look at things objectively. Don't be so quick to be part of the peanut gallery, aka court of public opinion. If you don't like something, tough. You're not there. Were you there? No. So don't focus in on what should have, could have happened. That stuff, that's not realistic. There are laws in place. If you do not understand that by now, go outside and do something. See how much you'll get penalized, and then watch somebody else follow behind you and do the same thing you did. There's a difference. There's a difference. Everything in this world is predicated on differences. Nothing is the same. Everything that they preach to us about equality and stuff, no. Get that out of your head. Focus on what's important to you, whether it's a craft, your beliefs, or things of that nature. Focus. You almost have to get to the point where you have tunnel vision and just zero in on your prize. No one's ever going to, just derail you off your lane if you're focused. But with that being said, NFL, I'm asking you, for the sake of not looking ridiculous, time in and time out, when you make rules or when you have set bylaws in there, follow it. Then you'll be less time in the news headlines for all the wrong reasons. Understanding that will not only make you a favorable source, but no one's here to look at you guys and the business side and transactional thing. People sit in the stands to watch people play, not to hear about who was tampering and who did this and who did that. No one cares. It's sad, but that's the real. People, honesty is the best policy. And sometimes with business, it ain't that honest. And that's in whatever. Not necessarily just solely in sports. That's everywhere. People are just, there's just a level, you have to take a grain of salt with whatever you hear. And in some cases, whatever you see. You never know. But with that being said, I don't know, people. I'm just glad football's right around the corner. I believe tonight there's the Hall of Fame game, preseason game. Woohoo. But it's football. It's 1 week closer to the real deal. Then college football will come. But NFL, you know, I have a place in my heart for the NFL. I enjoy it. We all played some form of it. We wear the paraphernalia. We wear everything. I enjoy it. But please, NFL, again, I'm begging you, stay out of the headlines. If you're going to do something, do it correct. If you're going to cover your bases, do it before it gets into the public eye. I don't understand why, for a multi-billion-dollar corporation being the NFL, there's so many faults. You guys got to tighten it up. But then again, you didn't ask me, but I know there are more people over there in you guys' ears telling you what you can and what you can't do. Advisors, consultants, who knows? But hopefully one day you guys get it right. But for the people who are one side or the other, no point. Just be objective. Listen to logic. That's the only way. If you look at things logically, they tend to be much more clearer. If you're so one-sided about something, guess what? You turn your back and your blind eye to something that you never thought could occur. So in closing, accountability. No, I'm not trying to hear it. People say it, but do they believe it? No. Strong word, great buzzword, but is it actionable? I don't know. I don't know how much of a percentage you can put on it. But again, accountability, no. Accountability only rears its head on certain cases, and that's just how it is. But I tell you what, we're gonna have more topics about the NFL because they don't seem to, disappoint when it comes to ridiculousness. But I'm hoping to minimize that and talk about the real stuff, which is actual gameplay. People stepping up, doing things, change of teams, actual players doing what they're supposed to be doing, playing. Well, anyway, that's all I got. I just had to, talk off the top of my head. I just had some feels. I had to let off a little bit of steam. But thank you for being here with me. I know we will continue on. But until then, like I said, like, share, subscribe. Oh, if you have a comment or two, drop it. I'm not opposed to criticism. Speak your mind. Judgment-free zone here. If you're here judging, I'm not with all that. Other than that, watch me work. Later.